Excuses don't pay bills. Excuses don't get results.
Expert in scaling businesses.
Always a joy to work with.
Very good buddy of mine.
We've got Jeff Fenster in the house. Jeff Fenster.
Jeff Fenster in the house.
Jeff Fenster, how are you doing today, Jeff?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me.
This is Jeff Fenster. You may know him as the founder and CEO of Everbowl, or as one of the main faces and thought leaders in the concept of relationship capital.
When did you realize that you were ordinary? And what was that experience that brought that into absolute reality for you?
If I'm an ordinary guy, what do extraordinary people do? And then I started to realize it's just them doing the extra stuff. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. It's true. It's easier to blame something else as to why it's not there than to embrace the reality and the truth, which is we control everything. The idea that we have come in society to this participation trophy mindset world. We are clipping the wings of the youth and the next generation.
Welcome back to Flipping the Lid. You know what we do here, and I love to be able to dig into the real life stories, and not for the purposes of making people victims, but to be able to show the hero in their own journey. The reality is each and every one of us have the ability to move ourselves forward as long as we're willing to learn from each one of our unique experiences and not remain stuck there for too long. Today, we've got an unbelievable human being here with us. He's an award-winning entrepreneur, but really he's a phenomenal human. He prioritizes people first. And after having exited and having multiple 8-figure businesses, he always prioritizes people before profits. He recognizes the value of relationship capital. And through a whole variety of his ventures, you'll understand why he has A-list celebrities in his pocket all the time, because he focuses on who they are, just like he focuses on who he is. So I'm really looking forward to jumping into our story today. And Jeff, man, it's a pure pleasure to have you here today, buddy.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor. What a cool studio.
Thank you.
We're here. I'm so glad we got to do this in person, hang out.
Me too, man.
And look forward to the conversation.
Yeah. The only question that I ask every guest is, who are you in your words?
Say that again.
Who are you in your words?
Ooh, I'm an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
Who spent a lot of time trying to figure out what extra stuff I could do to get extraordinary results.
Beautiful. What does ordinary mean to you?
It means that I don't have a set of attributes that makes me completely different from everybody else. Because I think when I was younger, and I used to have no idea what I really was going to do when I was a grown-up, because I wasn't good enough to play professional sports. I didn't have professional athlete athleticism and size. I didn't have Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates brain power.
Right.
I didn't have Walton or Hilton money to come from.
Yep.
So what was I going to do to make my mark on this world and stand out and be different?
Yeah.
And so being that I always felt that I was just ordinary, average, like I'm 5'9", I'm average height, right? I got an average SAT score. I got good, not great grades. I went to a good, not great college. Like those were my things. It was never really something where I was like, oh, I have this one unique value proposition about me that's going to allow me to compound wealth or compound success or compound some greater purpose. And so I said, okay, if I'm an ordinary guy, what do extraordinary people do? And then I started to realize it's just them doing the extra stuff. So I spent a large part of my youth learning, not earning, and interning and being around very successful people who are and have what I want. And I came to realize most people are ordinary, and that's not a negative. Ordinary means we're all human. We all put our shoes on the same way. Some of us are unique in the sense that they have some incredible gift.
Yeah.
LeBron James is born incredible size. Bill Gates and Zuckerberg have incredible brain power. That's fine. Most people don't have that. Mm-hmm. And so how do we help everybody become successful? And so I've been able to spend my life figuring out that extra stuff. Once I did, I started to get extraordinary results. And now I think of myself still as that ordinary guy, and I want to give back and help more people find the extra so everybody can be extraordinary.
Yeah, I love that. When did you realize that you were ordinary?
High school.
Okay. And what was that experience that brought that into absolute reality for you?
Well, it sucked at first, right? Because you wish you were more powerful. I wish I was as smart as some of the kids. I wish I was bigger. I was a small kid in high school and I was competing in sports. I was very competitive. Like you wish. I wish I could get into Harvard. I wish I was 6'5". And then I came to realize, why am I wishing to be something I'm not? And so it was a humbling moment, right? It's a period of where at first you're down and you're like, oh man, poor me, victim me, this. But then you come to realize, that's who I am. And then you realize most people are at that. The few things that we're identifying, about others, yes, in my small view of the world, my small little lens of what is the world that we all live in, I'm finding that to be a gift, but maybe they're not. Does Shaquille O'Neal like being 7'1" now that he's not playing in the NBA? Can he get into a normal sized car and be comfortable? I was sitting on an airplane.
Right.
I'm uncomfortable and I'm 5'9".
He wouldn't fit in that chair.
No, and I'm sure there are times in his life where he's like, man, I wish I wasn't so big. He was great for basketball, but is it great for everything else? And maybe the people with the incredible brain power struggle building good relationships with others because they're so much smarter than everybody that they find certain things boring or unengaging, and they don't get to learn as much because they know everything. Maybe they find that as a negative. And here I am wanting what they have instead of realizing, like, why don't I embrace what I have?
Yeah.
And make the best of what I bring to the table? Because at the end, what I came to the conclusion, my goal in life is to maximize my potential and leave my mark on the world the best way I can through my legacy with my children, my legacy with my business, my legacy with my friends and my wife and my family. And that's it. And if I do that, I have a Hall of Fame career in life in my own right.
Right.
And so that was the transition and the pivot. But in high school, there was that period where I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And nothing sounded fun and exciting. I didn't feel like I was better than everybody else at any one thing.
Yeah.
So I really just felt ordinary. That was the word that just always, man, I'm just an ordinary guy.
Yeah.
How do I turn that into a benefit, strength, power, right? Because if you can take what you perceive to be your weakness or your limitation and flip the lid, no pun intended, and make it a strength, well, now you're on to something, right? Now you're cooking with gas. So that was kind of that transition when I was younger.
Well, I also think it just opens you up to creativity and wonder, right? And it's always challenging yourself to almost force perspective shifts for the purposes of seeing it for what it really is in life, right? Like, I mean, the ability for you to like recognize where this is and then to take something and figure out how to make it something else, something better, right? Something more extraordinary. It does take a unique set of skills to do that. I'm curious, what was your first job? I mean, if you realized this in high school, what did your first ordinary job look like?
Well, I had two. So I always had an internship and I always had a job.
Okay.
My mom always said, go intern and go work.
Yeah.
So I always did. So Dave Meltzer was who I interned with.
Oh, yeah.
All through middle school and high school, all of those jobs from, interior door replacement company to corporate connections to whatever the name of that streaming something video where we streamed stuff, the PCE phone. I interned with him, but Pazzo's Pizza, making pizza.
Pazzo's
very
Pizza.
First job. Yeah, they hired me at just right at my 15th birthday. And I got to make pizza.
Dude,
Flip them in the air.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I could make a pie.
Did you ever deliver?
I did when I turned 18.
Okay.
Yes. Sit in your car, listen to music.
I mean, that's a very ordinary job.
It's as ordinary as it comes.
Yeah. Now, I also think it's just interesting for perspective, right? I think sometimes we age ourselves with some of this information, but it's also interesting. What was minimum wage then?
$5.25 was my first job minimum wage.
$5.25.
Yeah, it had just gone from $4.75 to $5.25.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you were rolling in it back then.
Oh yeah, because the movie was $5,
Right.
and I could take my girlfriend to the movie. We're good.
Yeah.
2 hours. We're going to the movies on Friday.
Dude, isn't that so funny how we would count hours back in the day based on what that is insane to me. That's awesome.
Yeah. Gas was $1.
So I remember that as well.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I think minimum wage when I started working was like $5.15. And yeah, gas was under $1.
Where was your first show?
So my first job at minimum wage, I had a unique one. I became a manager and a sales guy at a tennis shop because I was a tennis pro teaching and stringing at the time. And somebody that I worked with, I was like 14 when he hired me. So I was, below age as well. But he's like, Brian, you got a really good work ethic. And so I went in there and I would string as many as I could in an hour because I got bonused based on how quick I could get them strung, and which was a challenge with my arm, but it was fun to figure that out. So yeah, that was a blast, but it was like I think it was $5.15 was the minimum wage. And so I got paid minimum wage, and then everything else was based on like incentive stuff, right? And so I did tips, or I'd get bonused if I got X number of rackets done in an hour or a day, right? So I just would start to just crank. But it's funny because I remember when fuel was less than $1 a gallon too. And
First time I ever filled up my first car, 99 cents a gallon.
Right.
I was like, expensive.
Yeah.
Like I can only get 5 gallons. I worked an hour.
Yeah.
Now I would die for $1 a gallon.
Yeah, I filled up my 1992 Acura Integra and filled it with basic unleaded, 99 cents, and I think it was like $18 to fill the tank. It was amazing.
Now it's like 2.5 gallons.
Yeah. So I think it's always fascinating to see where people come from, what they've been through. And so you actually were encouraged early. I mean, you were given a gift with your mom to encourage you to not only work, but also to intern.
Yeah. Because I think she was worried about me in the sense that my sister was valedictorian.
Okay.
My mom was a teacher. My dad was a doctor, and I was
Ordinary.
social butterfly guy who didn't like to stick to anything. Interested in sports. And she knew when I didn't that was not a career path.
Yeah.
You know? So she was like, why don't you just go get exposed to stuff? And they immigrated here from Canada, so I was the first American born in the family. And so her social group was tight. The only friends and family we have are the friends that they created over the course of my childhood, right? My sister was born in Canada as well. So David Meltzer's mom was the principal at the school where my mom taught. And so he was one of the first people that was close enough to my age because we were about 14 years apart.
Yeah.
So when he was in high school, I was a little kid. We started to be close as family friends. And so when he finally got into the workforce, it was like, he was like, yeah, I'll take Jeffrey. You can come move boxes around or do something. Yeah. So I was like, just get out of the house, go expose yourself to something more, because she didn't like my friend group. She didn't like my perspective. And me hanging out at Pazzo's Pizza, making $5 to take my girlfriend to the movies wasn't getting me anywhere. So she just wanted to expose me. You know, she had no idea.
Well, got you to the movies.
Got me to the movies. Maybe a little further.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was lucky.
No, I mean, but so whether she was worried about you or not, I think to challenge you at such a young age, to open yourself up, to trade your time, your physical labor for lessons alone, right? That's most adults have a hard time opening themselves to ask for help, to learn, to be humble enough to just go in and learn. And yet you did that consistently through your teenage and early even 20s, it sounds like.
Yep. I always had an internship. So I, not just with Dave Meltzer, but I always had an internship. I always said, I will come in and work for free. Can I just be I was in a stock trading office called BlackRock.
Yep.
Not the BlackRock that everybody knows. It was like, I think they were trying to spin off that name.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, this was not the same BlackRock.
Not the same one? Okay.
No. But it was called BlackRock, and it was just a small little office in San Diego where they took people's money, traded stocks. I got exposed to it, realized that's not for me.
Yeah.
So I was a real estate office. I spent the summer hanging out there, seeing if I was interested. Like, I just wanted to see, because remember, this is pre-internet. This is pre-Google. There was no YouTube, Google. Like, this was the world you knew was Encyclopedia Britannica if you had them, which we did. What my parents and community would tell me, and that was the source of truth.
Yeah.
And my mom and dad, having moved from Canada, had a much bigger perspective in life because they came from another country.
Yeah, which in and of itself is, yeah.
And so that alone, they wanted me to have bigger perspective. And my mom being a teacher, obviously, lessons and learning is important.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
So it was like, hey, Jeff, if you're not going to go the route of doctor or lawyer, which is what they really wanted for me and my sister is a judge, and I went to law school. So I did follow the path. But parents that stressed, you're going to graduate school, you can be a doctor, a lawyer, accountant, pick one. And I was like, I don't want to do any of those things. It was like, okay, we got to find something for this kid.
Yeah.
Go out there, intern, experience.
Yeah.
Because no one was going to hire you.
What you just said, though, also is a lot of people's reality, right? They've got very prominent or successful parents, right? They might have a sibling that's a high performer in a different way. And then, as you call it, ordinary, right? They're sitting here, and obviously there's always these expectations. There's these high standards. There's these predetermined paths. There's also, right, comparison. Yep. There's comparison that takes place. And so you obviously learned by doing in lots of cases, but when did you become aware of some of the comparison and expectations that were predefined just because of the family that you were born into?
I mean, my whole childhood. My mom's 6 feet tall. My sister's almost 6 feet tall. My dad is 6 feet tall. I'm 5'9".
And you're 5'9".
So I always said, Mom, well, how tall is the mailman? Right? So I have
So like totally different in so many ways. Yeah.
Like I'm saying, like I felt ordinary, and I felt like I was like, and my sister was valedictorian of the high school.
Yeah.
I mean, she damn near got it perfect on the SAT. She's much more academically, has a much higher aptitude for academics than me.
Yeah.
She's smarter with books and learning and how to learn it. My dad is a physician, a doctor, so he's clearly educated. My mom is a teacher, so she knows how to. And there I was, like, I didn't struggle in school, but I didn't excel. I wasn't a straight A student.
Yeah.
And so it always kind of felt like I was that odd one out, the ordinary one amongst these high achieving, I used to get grounded as a kid, and I couldn't play with friends. My sister would get grounded from reading. That was the dynamic of my household. Because that was her thing. you know, like she leaned into that world. She was not a social butterfly. So she might have been envious of my ability to make friends. And I had a huge social circle and, you know, friends, parties, the whole thing. And I was envious of her ability to excel at school. And so we kind of had a fracture in the relationship from that side. Just both of us were like, really see how you see the world. Like we saw it differently. And my folks more saw it the way my sister did. So it was just more of that situation where I was like, I didn't know, right? You know, because you didn't have social media to see other options. With, you know, it's my kids today, I try to tell them, like, you have when they tell me, I have 2 daughters, 18 and 12, they'll say something like, I don't know how to do it. And I go, that's an unacceptable answer in 2023 or 2024. Yeah. You have a phone in your pocket. You can literally Google anything. How do I, and fill in the answer.
And there's probably 50 YouTube videos that show you.
At least. Like, you can legitimately learn
anything. Yeah.
You want to build a nuclear bomb? I'm sure you can figure that out. You might not have the access to what you need from the material side, but the how is online.
Right.
And so the ability to learn anything and take control of your own future, your own outcome today has never been easy.
I agree.
And so when we were kids going back into the, you know, the 80s and 90s, it was different. And so it's hard now to use that lens today, because today you're almost overloaded with access to information, which is a different set of problems, right? Because you didn't have it, it was like, I only knew what I knew. And you were born into where you were born into, and who you had access to is who you had access to.
I feel like that was such a gift, though, too.
It was a better childhood.
I mean, it's definitely it's a different way of living.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you and I think we're the same age. So I'm 38. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we remember, you know, card catalogs and having to actually reference stuff from libraries and, you know, back when pagers were the thing, not, you know, the cell phones that we texting didn't even exist until I was in college.
They used to charge by the text.
Yeah.
When the first phones came out.
They did.
Yeah.
I remember my very first cell phone. It had a plan that had 60 minutes on it.
Yes. Nights and weekends free?
Something like that.
I'll call you at 6.
It was like 60 minutes. And I'm like, no, damn. Exactly. Every time it's like, I can't call. Okay, bye.
Yeah. My favorite was when they switched it and it was you making a call cost you, but receiving calls was unlimited minutes. So I would call you and say, call me from your house phone. Click. And then you call me.
I remember that too. I had forgotten about that one.
Those good old plans.
That's good. You've always had this itch and urge to know that like the traditional path wasn't going to be for you, especially through high school. That's when the awareness came in. What I'm curious about though is, did you ever experience shame, comparison, and defeat as a result of some of those conditions that you grew up in and around? And if so, how do you think it served you? And what are the elements of that you're still working through or breaking down, if any?
It's a big question.
It is. Sorry.
Yeah, no. I almost dropped out of college.
Okay.
And so end of my freshman year, I had a lot of fun, but I went home and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing.
Right.
And I said to my dad, I'm like, I think I'm going to drop out. He's like, well, go back another semester. So I did first semester of my sophomore year. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. And he's like, do me a favor, finish the year. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to finish this year, what can I do? And so I met with one of the counselors and I basically was like, hey, you know, I don't think college is for me. And they said, well, why don't you just graduate early? I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, you can do summer classes, you can take a full load. Like, don't drop out, just finish faster. So I did. So I graduated college at 21.
Beautiful.
But I had no idea what I was going to do with myself.
Yeah.
So as I was graduating with no clue, I knew I wanted to be a sports agent, but I was like, I'm not going to get into law school.
Right.
And I wanted to be a professional athlete. That wasn't going to happen. And I actually had a job interning at the University of Arizona football program. I was like, oh, I'll go be a coach. I'll get that path. And then the coaching staff got fired and they terminated everybody, including all the interns. So that got taken my sophomore year, which is one of the reasons I was ready to be done again. I was like, this sucks. So I enlisted in the Marine Corps and applied to law school. And when I took my test for what your job's going to be in the Marines, I told them, if I get into law school, I'm going to law school. Otherwise, I had my enlistment date. My deployment day was July 12th of that year. Wow. And I got into 2 law schools in the country, Barry University and St. Thomas in Miami. And traditionally, law schools don't like 21-year-olds. They want older, more mature, just of how it works. And my LSAT score wasn't burning the cover. They weren't running to me. Let's just say that. And so I had to get into this law school. When I got there, the way these law schools work, it's not like a traditional test. So you go to take a math test and say there's 10 questions. If you get 9 out of 10 right, you get an A. 8 out of 10, you get a B. At these low-tier law schools, they're actually over allowing more students in than they want, knowing they're going to drop 40% from the program. So they kick out 40% after the first year. So it's curve-based, which means if 50% of the class gets 9 out of 10, and I get 8 out of 10. I get an F.
Right.
I don't get a B.
Right. Because
So
you're
I'm
below the curve.
competing with everybody. So I go to Miami. I know nobody.
That's like a hot box for competition.
Yes.
That's like pure survival for whatever you want your
Pure
long.
survival.
That's unbelievable. Keep going.
No, it's okay.
That was great.
So I moved to Miami where I know nobody
Mm-hmm.
at 21 years old, and I'm around 25 to 35-year-olds in law school that are mature, responsible, know why they're there, and have a mission. And I'm here at 21. I basically almost was going to drop out of college, and I'm in law school, and I'm like, I want to be a sports agent, and if I just can finish this 3-year program, if I can get through this first-year program, and I'm homesick, and I don't know a soul. No one wants to be my friend because I was a 21-year-old kid, and I looked young and immature. I mean, I'm 21, in Miami, which is a hotbox for extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anyone, thankfully. So I said, okay, how do I get to law school in San Diego, back to my comfort zone? And you have to finish the top 10% of your class. I was like, okay, shoot. I'm trying not to fail out. Now we're talking about the top 10%. Yeah. And so I just said, you know what? For the first time in my life, I'm going to actually apply everything I have into this one thing. And so I did. And I was able to survive that first year of law school, finished top 10% and transferred back to San Diego. So that was kind of that first moment where I got to change my perspective from ordinary guy who can't do all this stuff to
Top 10%.
top 10%. And that was like that first real wind beneath my sail. I was like, wait a second. Yeah, if you actually apply yourself and actually eat the dog food you've been hearing and seeing and smelling and reading and looking at forever, actually you can. And then you come to realize, and this is a big pivotal change in my whole life. You know this quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard? It's true. And it is true. So true that moment changed my work ethic. Because I went from never really applying myself to realizing, like, if I find myself, I'm going to beat most people who are better than me just because I'm going to outwork them. Yeah. That could be my superpower. That could be my extra. And I started to do that. Then everything changed. And I went from this uber competitive, being alone in Miami situation to crushing law school, getting the job as a sports agent, doing all those things. And then I realized that's the extra. My first notice of what that extra is. And so that whole ordinary issue that I was dealing with pretty much till I was 21 years old died when I was able to finally see the result that I can beat all the smarter kids than me because I'm just going to outwork them. Because there's nothing there that can stop them or me from how many hours we put in. You don't get more hours in a day than I do, no matter how much smarter than you are or whatever. And being alone, isolated out there with had no one to hang out with.
Utilized all the time to get done what you needed to.
I had no friends for the first time in my life. Because remember, you also don't really make friends in law school in that kind of environment.
Because you're competing with everybody. Yeah.
If you and me study together and I help you,
I'm lowering my opportunity in the curve.
Yes. There's a lot of tension, So there was, and a lot of the people there a lot of them had families, a lot of them had boyfriends or girlfriends. They already had social circles in the region because this is a regional small little law school, and it's called St. Thomas in Miami. And so it was that moment where I realized, like, oh my gosh. That's the first time I realized there is one thing extra that I can bring. Yeah. And nobody can stand in the way of that. Yeah. And I just which
I think is unbelievably powerful. I think, I know for some people it can tip too far in one direction and the do overtakes for the rest of their life. I feel like we'll come full circle, obviously, because I think you have found a way to really integrate your life with your priorities very clear. It's funny though, you did say you're like, that was a time when that ordinary identity kind of died. Yep. But yet, when I asked you who you were today, you still identify as ordinary.
Well, because I'm an ordinary guy who figured out what extra stuff to do and to have extraordinary. Yes, okay. I figured it out. I was an ordinary guy.
You're an ordinary guy transformed extraordinary by understanding. Got it.
I know what I need to. I know what cape I need to put on. From you think Superman, which one are you? Yeah. I'm an ordinary guy, but I know how to put on the cape because I know what extra stuff I need to do when it's time to be successful or do extraordinary things. Yeah. I know the recipe, the formula. Yeah.
It's interesting through even what you just described at the law school, because, competition, just by nature of competition, particularly in an environment like that, forces hierarchy. I'm curious your thoughts and opinions on the added benefits of competition in a work environment or in a culture, and kind of whatever balance or integration you think that forced hierarchy creates for people to have opportunity to grow.
I think competition's everything. Yeah, I love it. I don't understand why you wouldn't want to have that, because that usually brings out people's best, or it exposes their inadequacies. It exposes their limitations and their weaknesses. So it gives them an area to focus to improve, right? If I lose because I didn't bring the right work ethic, well, now I know what I need to do next time. If I lose because I didn't have the skills because it was super competitive and you were just more skilled than me, I know where I need to spend my focus.
Yeah.
And so if I'm going to lose, but I have a map to get better for the next time, that's a win. I mean, the saying, sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. It only works if you learn. Otherwise, you did lose, right? So I think competition is everything. The idea that we have come in society to this participation trophy mindset world. We are clipping the wings of the youth and the next generation wants to become 18, because once you turn 18 and mom and dad are there and these, AYSO soccer leagues that don't want to prioritize winning and the winning mindset, guess what? In the real world, no one cares about your feelings. The boss at your company isn't going to be like, well, Jimmy, because Johnny or Sally got a raise, we're going to definitely give you one. It's based on your own performance. And competition forces you to lean into who you are and find yourself. And look, it can be overwhelming. It can hurt. But there's also a lesson in youth of learning how to lose.
Right.
And does it break you, or does it set you up to be made from it, right?
Yeah.
Most people get knocked down, and if they don't learn how to get back up, they spend their whole life knocked down.
Yeah.
And that is a dangerous, dangerous, dangerous thing.
I agree with that completely. It is interesting. I also agree. I'm not a big fan of like participation trophies for the sake of like making everybody feel equal. I think there's
We're not all equal.
We're not. And so that's the other side of it too, is that I think that there's a healthy integration when leading teams between competition with each other and facilitating in a way that it doesn't create damage. And then how do we get people to intrinsically compete with their prior self? Because I think that's the gap that keeps most people stuck even more. It's interesting. I'm anybody who knows me knows I joke. I'm like, oh, I'm not a competitor. I'm freaking crazy competitive. I like in everything I do. Like it's like in every fiber of my being. But I will tell you that as a result of like shame elements that I dealt with for years, competition for me for many years was I hated losing more than I liked winning. And so therefore, even the nature of it was to protect not losing versus playing to win. I'd love to know that kind of dynamic and how that's existed in your life. Obviously, with leading as many teams as you do, how do you foster and facilitate that so that people are playing to win instead of playing not to lose?
Well, I share that, by the way.
Okay.
I hate losing more than I like winning.
Still.
And that leaves you with this whole thing of you're never satisfied.
Right.
Which is a good and a bad. The bad is you don't always enjoy and cherish all of the wins that you achieve and those milestones that should be celebrated.
Yeah.
The benefit is you tend to be an overachiever because you don't spend time doing that. So when others may spend too much time in the celebration of it and enjoying, you're back to work thinking what's next. So it's a juggling act between how much do you enjoy the experience versus achieve. So from how much are you going to accomplish? The way we are wired means we're probably going to be we're going to accomplish more.
Yeah.
But did we enjoy it? Did we experience it? Did we cherish it? Did we bring others with us? Because others might go, why don't we take a minute and look what we just did? Like, can we take a minute?
Right.
And sometimes I have to be reminded.
Oh, I do too. I often do.
Yes. And still to this day.
Yeah.
And I try to always be conscious of it now because I'm 40 and I've spent 25 years being told you're never satisfied. Like you need to, and you get better. So I struggle with that. But how do I do it with my teams? I bring in people who are the opposite. And this is how I hire. I don't hire people like myself very often. I try to hire people that have skills that I don't. Maybe my strengths are their weaknesses are my strengths. The more people who think differently than me. I think the mistake a lot of organizational leaders make is they hire people that think like they do because they feel comfortable. Whether it's political, whether it's religion, whether it's competition, how you see technology, how you see this. Do you want to go left or right? If they want to go left and you want to go left, I like that person. I actually want the differing of views.
Yeah, I don't want nodding heads in there.
No. I want people I think it's good to have healthy debate.
I agree.
Yes, you have to eventually get in lockstep. And that's the other element is I want healthy debate. But once a decision's made, whether it's yours or mine, we both get in line.
Right.
That's our decision.
Right.
And if we lose, we lose, we win. And the next time we'll have healthy debate and pick again. But that is how I try to hire. So from an organization, like there are people on my team that make sure we celebrate all the wins when maybe I'm not conscious enough to realize that we're not. And I'm already thinking about what's next. I want to. Let me be clear. I wish I could change that about myself. Like if I could go in and rewire something, I would cherish more of the celebratory moments and not hate losing more than I like winning.
Yeah.
Because it also probably would have made me a better teammate. Right? In a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. So it's interesting. I think it's possible
To change that? Okay. But you're the expert.
Well, I'm not trying to challenge and tell you how to do it in the course of this, but we can absolutely do it. I would tell you that there's been a fundamental shift. I don't hate losing more than I like winning anymore. And I don't mean that even through the lens of like, I love winning and I don't like to lose.
Sure.
But what's also been interesting is that was also me being able to actually step into all of who I am and recognize that here's the thing too, I'm not going to celebrate the same way everybody else does. Right? You even said it. You're like, I should be doing this, right? I should be celebrating the way that we should if we're building this. It's like, well, okay, but my natural rhythm isn't to like sit and like just high five myself all day.
Right.
But I can allow myself to, even in moments, minutes, or days, right, experience a positive lift in my energy, recognize the gratitude it's associated with, and not just have it be intellectual, but like embodied. And so for me, it's not that here's the thing. People ask me all the time too, like, when is enough enough? Well, there is no final destination. So you tell me, like, everybody's standard is different, right? My goal is I think everybody should, and I don't say should often because I think should's a shame-based word, but I think that everybody should have the opportunity to make as much money as they want, right? Have the connections, relationships, and as much freedom as they want, but recognize that all of that's coming through a lens of variables, decisions, and integration in life based on priorities for that individual, right? Like I coached a person one time who had a very successful nightclub business running a bunch of bars, was miserable, and 18 months later, he sold everything, went and got his EMT and became a firefighter. But like for him, that was about bringing joy back into his life in the way that he could. So for me, I'm always pushing, but I would tell you it is a beautiful thing for you to recognize the downside of it and also the benefit of it, because I do think that had I not had that in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And I will be clarified. When I say I wish I could change it, it's now. It wouldn't have changed it when I was young.
No.
I wouldn't have what I have.
I'm saying I think it's possible for you now in the coming future, right? I wouldn't change the past from it.
But I think it's a gift when you're
I 1,000% agree.
When you're trying to make it, it's a gift.
Dude, I 1,000% agree. Plus, I mean, here's the thing. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff that I didn't know and better, and I chased what the world told me success looked like.
Yep.
Now, I've redefined success for myself, so it's very different, and it's not just attached to monetary riches, which it was for me for a long time.
It was for me as well.
Yeah.
In my head, it was, I always said, when I make $1 million, I'm going to be the happiest guy.
Yeah.
And the day I made $1 million,
first time I made $1 million,
I was like, I don't feel any better. I'm actually like, well, wait, I could have made $2 million had I done this.
Right.
Or I could have made $20 million had I done this. And then it became, okay, the money didn't make me happy. It was like, well, when I have a family, so I'm married, I have 2 daughters, and I love them. And it fills a huge part of my cup. But I still have that gnawing, what's next?
Yeah.
You're not finished. Someone's catching up. What are you doing? Imposter syndrome, lazy syndrome. Get going, move forward, You're not fulfilling this. You're not doing this. But I did tell you at the beginning, like my dream, my goal in life is to have a Hall of Fame wife. That's a standard that is the highest echelon. And so when I look at the people, I compare myself to sports because I'm a sports guy, and you see who's in the Hall of Fame and you look at their attributes, and I'm really a big believer in figuring out that extra. Most of them shared that same attribute.
Yeah.
Most of them. Not all, but most of them.
Most of them. And so I think that's what's interesting is you aren't competing with anybody else anymore. You're just competing with who you're capable of becoming with whatever time you have left.
Yes.
Right. And so that's even the dynamic and shift that's interesting is you were forced through an environment of competition to learn how to compete with yourself.
Which is who we all should be competing with.
And by the way, that was my whole point, right? I think that competition is a healthy thing, but when it is not regulated or set up in a way that is healthy, it can crush more people than actually advance more people.
But I think it's because they're competing with the wrong person.
That's right.
They're competing with you, me, others.
But because that's often what the environments tell us to do.
Yes.
Look at your law school environment.
Yeah, well-
That's exactly my point, right? Like sports teams, making anything, you have to.
But you know what? That's not. You're right, kind of. So I'm going to challenge you.
Challenge.
When I was in law school, and I knew that because I didn't make friends with anybody, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have an avatar to compete with.
Okay.
So what I was competing with was my ability to finish top 10% of this group.
To operate at the highest level possible for you because you couldn't control the outcome.
So I said, look, my standard for this mission, this next semester, the only thing I can say is, and I said it to my mom and my dad, and I said, when I'm done, whatever happens, I'm going to look back and say, there's not one more thing I could have done. If I do that, I win.
See, that's the difference.
And it worked.
That's exactly right. And so what you did though is you took a competitive cesspot of competition,
Yes,
and you shifted it into the way that you could have an element of control and influence in that destiny, because that's also part of the surrender process, right? You're like, if I give it my all and I leave everything on the field,
that's it.
well, okay, I could still be upset that I don't have the outcome I want, but I couldn't have done anything else.
Correct.
Right?
You can live with that.
Right. And so that's, I think, the healthy shift that most people don't make.
Why do you think they don't make it?
I think that there's a whole lot of shame that's based in our society that forces non-objective, judgmental, and critical comparisons that are damaging to people. And even more so today with social media. I mean, to your point, exactly, like when you and I were kids, we're probably the last generation that really could benefit without the same level of like abundant exposure to everything in the world right in our hands.
We're the last generation without the internet.
Right. And so because of that, I think we have a gift in that we can be a little bit more grounded, right? And to your point, what were we comparing ourselves to then? Our direct circles, right?
Yes,
like
all
if
of
we were
those.
competing for a team, right? To get, it's like, well, can I outbeat that person so I can get hired for this job? Like it's like little stuff, right? But in today's world, I think everything is put in such a micro focus of what does success look like, that I think people don't know what they're actually chasing
And what they see isn't real,
most of the time.
right? Because we're all guilty of this, most of us. I don't put my down days on social media.
Right.
Because why? Right? I don't spend much time there.
Yeah.
I want to focus on the positive stuff.
Yeah.
Because the more I feel that, I think that the way same thing I explained when I'm explaining how to eat better.
Mm-hmm.
Diets don't work. Diets don't work because they're restrictive.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you eat better? You just fill yourself up on more good things. Before you eat the candy bar, eat an apple.
Yep.
Before you go eat McDonald's, eat an apple.
Yep.
Then eat 2 apples. Then eat an apple and a banana. Have a smoothie. And still eat the thing you really want to eat. What happens is your belly gets full on this, you eat less of that.
Yeah.
And over time, you start to realize, I'm okay, I don't have to
Right.
eat as much of that. Same thing in that whole thing. And so in social media, it's a glorified highlight reel of
It absolutely is.
real and fake. Whether it's me posing in front of a Ferrari I don't own, or a house I don't own, or a Ferrari I do own.
Yeah.
Either way, you think I have this Ferrari and you don't. And you go, why does Jeff have a Ferrari and I don't? And in that moment, you've compared yourself,
Bingo.
rightly or wrongly, to me.
Bingo.
And it's just,
Because you're comparing outside of yourself.
and you don't even know if it's real.
Right.
It's like watching television show and saying, why am I not like that fake character in that movie? Well, you're not Superman.
What's interesting though too is I think even to what you just said, right? You don't know what's real. I think the only thing real in this world is literally what's right in front of you at this moment.
Yes. Especially with AI.
Right. We talk about this all the time too in different ways because it's like what the past, right? We know how incredible our memories are. We have our experiences. We react to things based on our cellular memory. Like we're 2 million year old archaic meat suits, but we've gotten into this place in this world where it's like, that's the reality. So we fabricate the future, right? And that's the other part is it's really funny because people compare themselves against who they believe their future self should be versus what are they capable of doing right now. And the only thing real is what's right in front of you.
And I think it's easier for people to find, and I did this till I was in law school. It's easier to blame something else as to why it's not there
Ownership.
than to embrace the reality and the truth, which is we control everything. I don't care. You can show, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it was so good. And it's like, there's someone in the world who had the same same hand you had and won with it.
Yeah.
There are people that are born with extreme limitations that accomplish. I mean, I saw a person hike Mount Everest and they were one leg, half an arm, or one arm, one leg, and they're hiking Mount Everest, and there are able bodies that can't or won't do it.
Yep.
There are people that can barely have the, IQ and are on the bottom end of the IQ spectrum, and they're accomplishing and learning things because they're putting in the effort.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm trying to use physical because it's the easier one to.
Well, it's the one that we can identify.
Easily, but the truth is, it's also internal.
It is.
You can see humans that appear to be broken to the world accomplish more and start with nothing and come from nothing and achieve the biggest and greatest. So what everyone needs to realize. There is a recipe.
There is.
And excuses don't pay bills. Excuses don't get results.
Mm-mm.
Excuses don't even make you feel better.
Mm-mm.
It just placates. It's numbing. It placates the moment.
That's all it is.
I didn't get it because. Get rid of that.
Yeah, it's justification.
Yeah.
Instead of I didn't get it because, how could I get it next time?
Right.
What would I do differently to put myself in a better position to earn it?
What
Those are
am I
questions
gonna
that people
do?
aren't asking.
What am I going to do? And start now.
Right.
Because, like I have my core values and I live by them and I teach on them. And there's two that resonate here. One is I don't strive for perfect. I used to. Can't be perfect.
Perfect doesn't exist.
Right. You sometimes hit perfect on the way to remarkable, though.
Mm-hmm.
I strive for remarkability, which means, am I putting 100% of Jeff Fenster's best ability in what I'm doing right now? If I do that, I'm remarkable.
Right.
And the bowling analogy I use all the time, a bowler, professional bowlers, because you can bowl a perfect game, it's 300. They do the same technique over and over. Some days they bowl 300, some days they don't.
Right.
What's the difference? Nothing. They're trying to be remarkable. Occasionally you hit perfect on the way to remarkability. But we can all be remarkable. I can always control if I put 100% of my best effort with my best capabilities today.
Yeah.
Can I do that? We all can right now. That can start today, which means everyone can be remarkable. And if you're not remarkable, don't cry about the results you didn't get from the effort and work you didn't do.
Right.
And don't justify it because you're never going to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the harsh reality. Someone has to say, Jeff, you're making excuses.
Mm-hmm.
It's on you. You control it. It's a matter of when, not if you apply these principles.
The unavoidable precursor to change is acceptance. Until you accept the current state of things, you cannot alter them.
That's right.
Like, period, end of story. And, it is interesting. I mean, you might remember when we met, right, for the first time in Advance Your Reach, Pete Vargas, back in the day. One of our core messages, one of the first ones, is this concept of embracing pain to avoid suffering, right? It's that exact ability, because when I learned early, look, I didn't want to be known for my arm. And what's really cool is my arm has gotten attention, but I'm still not known for my arm.
Sure.
It's a story that happened to Brian, who is a human behavior and performance expert who also knows how to build and scale companies,
Fair.
right? And who helps a lot of other entrepreneurs. And I just happen to have a really unique story.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, though, because there are so many people that get stuck with belief systems or the idea of viewing things as absolute, right? And I literally just earlier today, I had an interview on our podcast with another guest, and she said to me that her dad had a quote back in the day. He said, "You can't ride two horses with the same ass." And she was like using that. And I understand everything that's meant behind the lesson of that statement. But I said, but you can hook two of them up to a carriage. Right? Why do you believe that we view everything through a binary lens and a zero-sum game in this world, when often I find the gift is in the gray area?
Why do I think people, or me?
I'm going to say, why do I think the world operates that way? And then if you've got a particular opinion.
Well, I think it's the easy way to view it. It's the easier approach, right?
Yeah.
Because the world is very factually based, right?
Mm-hmm.
Math and science have proved we can land our remote control on Mars, car on Mars. I mean, we have I can talk to you on cell phone. So, it's amazing. We can do all that, but there are parts where my cell phone doesn't have reception. And we'll get into that. Usually when you're on top of a hill, it's strange. But it's just the easier.
Like right next to the antenna.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is this not working? I think it'd be better, but it's because that's binary, right? That's the stuff. And the gray it feels more subjective.
Right.
And so objectivity seems to be like the easier path for everyone's brains to go. Fire hot, water wet, right? Cold need warmth. Love feels good. Like, those are simple things.
Yeah.
The gray area tends to be where debate happens.
Mm-hmm.
Differing views, polarizing issues, makes people uncomfortable. And so my view, I'm more in the gray today, right? Because
Obviously, based on how everything you've described.
Yes. Because I think that that's where winning happens.
I agree.
And I say winning not to mean, did you make $1 million or did you marry the woman or man of your dreams? But winning being, are you happy and do you live the life you want to live?
Yeah.
That's success. That's winning.
I completely agree.
Whether you're an EMT or a multi-billionaire.
It doesn't matter the medium. If it aligns for you and the life you want to live, that's winning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I couldn't agree more.
So that's my answer on
I love that.
all right.
I love that. When did you learn and realize the benefit of relationship capital?
As a kid. Yeah. Interning.
So you learned that as an intern.
Yeah. Well, yes, because we all know the cliche. It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? And back in the olden days, our childhood, there's always friends and family members that got passed up for the promotion because so-and-so's brother works there. And because the world was small back then, because we didn't have Zoom and internet and it wasn't a global economy, it was a regional economy.
Yep.
So if you worked in an office in San Diego, you were competing with the employee pool of San Diego.
Right.
So there was less opportunity, but there was less competition, right? So two edges to the same sword. So when you're working in that company and you're like, oh, I got passed up for the promotion because the boss's cousin got it for me and I'm more qualified than she is or he is. You hear that, right? Or the coach picks this kid because he's got a crush on her mom or her dad, right? She has a crush, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Or so-and-so's brother is the assistant coach. And so, yeah, he's the starter over you. There's always a reason. And you get to realize it's true. Nepotism is real. Who you know in this world is way more important than what you know. And the reason that's true is because you may know how to do everything. I may know how to do nothing. But if I know two people like you that know how to do everything and I have a relationship with them, I have the benefit of both of them. You have the benefit of yourself. Right. I have the opportunity of both of them. So getting to intern with Dave Meltzer, getting to intern, at BlackRock, getting to intern at the real estate office, having my mom and dad introduce me to these people that exposed me to things that my direct peers in my same community didn't, I had more opportunity, right? I got to understand a path. I got to see things that they didn't get to see. And that's where it all starts to stem from. So once I realized that, it was like, well, what else can come from this? And of course, I'm speaking to you now as a 40-year-old who has spent a lifetime honing this versus what I thought and realized then. I know your question is, when did I realize? I didn't know then the power, but I embraced and felt it and experienced it as I was growing, right? And so now realizing the power, it's like, yeah, I've made millions of dollars in my life. I've sold companies, I've done all that. I'd love to tell you it's because I'm so awesome. It's not. 85-90% of my wealth is who I know, not what I know. I have phone calls I can make to bring in the right talent, phone calls I can make to create opportunity, phone calls I can make to get the right investors from friends, because I do business only with friends. And that's where me and most people differ. Most people say the saying, I don't do business with family and friends. I'm the opposite. I only do business with family and friends. Truthfully.
I prefer to do it with family and friends.
I only do. Like, will I not hire? I'll hire somebody off a resume, but when I interview them, it's culture and friendship. Do I think I can jive with this human being as a human? I'm actually trying to read you as a person, not your skills. I don't care.
Right.
I can always find somebody. I can always find somebody to do that. You can train, you can learn. You got to this point because you can do it, right? I only want to do business with friends because as a friend, I'm never going to leave you in the lurch. Might not work out and we may have to fire each other, quit, go our separate ways, but we're going to do it out of a place of love and loyalty if we're truly friends.
Right.
If we don't and it breaks our friendship, fun fact, how good of friends were we?
Right.
If our friendship can't handle the reality of a storm,
business separation,
then we're not really friends. We're acquaintances, and that's fine. Then it's going to be what it's going to be. But I'm going to operate with integrity, wanting what's best for you and the company. But when we put our business hats on, we got to do what's best. If you're not the right person for the job because you can't do the job, I love you. I'll help you find another job. I have a lot of relationship capital, but it ain't the right place for you.
Right.
And vice versa. If you go, Jeff, I love you, I just don't feel like this is my home.
Well, by the way, you're both doing each other a disservice if you don't just lean into the truth on that anyway. Right?
Yeah, and I've lost the best man in my wedding, who was my best friend growing up. We're not really friends anymore over working together. And one of my other best friends was the CFO of a couple of my companies and is now the president of a basketball team. And when he left for that, I was bummed, but I told him, if you don't take the job, I'm going to take the damn job. Yeah. So go. Like, yes, I still love you. Right. So two different situations. One ended bad, but it ended bad on the other side, not mine. Right. It didn't work. And I owe it as the CEO and the leader of my company to put the right people in the right positions.
Yeah.
Just like as an employee, you owe it to yourself. Is this the right home for you? Can you thrive, excel, and grow? If you can't, you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you can't see that there's a path to move forward, you're not learning, you're not growing, you don't see on how you're going to get there, you don't feel it's the right environment, you don't stay because it's your friend's place, right?
Right.
So relationship capital to me is everything, because I started a restaurant chain without any experience. I started a construction company without any experience. I started a payroll business without any experience, but I had relationship capital.
Right.
So I don't have to wait for this experience. I don't have to trade years of learning to achieve what I want today. I have the relationships.
Yeah.
I can make 2 phone calls right now and get to the top of an industry because I built, and where I'm spending my energy and someone else is spending their energy are different. I'm spending my energy trying to build quality relationships, lead with value, build a community of people that know, love, and support me in what I'm doing because I know, love, and support them in what they're doing.
Yeah.
We grow together and try to be the community.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a really beautiful thing to watch. I think it's also fascinating though to watch because some people, I think, hear relationship capital and it's all based on who you know, and they immediately put themselves in a position where it becomes so apparent what they want from that person versus what they want for them. And, you know, we've heard like, oh, that person's a social climber. Right? And by the way, I want to be really clear. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I think that it's intent and approach. How have you been able to effectively build deep, meaningful relationships with people that have also transferred into business opportunity and wealth generation without ever going about it from a lens of like, oh, I want to be around that person because they're famous and have a lot of money? How have you approached that? Lots of people ask me, and I know this is the case with you because you have many relationships that we share, but many others that are in completely different categories. I was like, how do you get to these people?
Sure.
So how do you get to them? How do you approach it? And then how do you actually build a deep, meaningful relationship? And then when do you know is the time to bridge that to a business opportunity?
So the first one is you're either all in or you're all out.
Okay.
You can't dabble in that. So how do you get to them? You get to them because everybody in your sphere loves you. And so that's what's called luck. Like my friends all say I have Fenster luck. But it's what I put my attention and intention to, right? So while they're fishing with one fishing pole in the water, I'm putting 10. I'm putting 50. If we're sitting on a boat and there's 20 fishing poles, I'm not putting one in the water, leaving 19 of them sitting on the boat.
Right.
I'm putting all 20 in the water. I want to get lucky. So what does that mean? It means I'm meeting everybody. I am genuinely trying to connect with everybody, regardless of your status.
Yeah.
And I do that every day, all day of my life.
Yeah.
Like when I'm in an Uber, I make friends with the Uber driver.
I agree.
When I'm in a grocery store, I make friends with the clerk. It doesn't mean we're going out to coffee, but I'm going to have a conversation if there's a couple minutes to kill and we're together.
Human being.
It's a human being. We're going to get to know each other. And from that, you never know what's going to happen. But if you do that consistently and religiously, every day, all day of the rest of your life, all of a sudden you have a storm of people that at some way, shape, or form know you and like you because you're personable and you created a human connection when others don't. And number 2, everybody's someone's brother, sister, aunt, cousin, friend, or uncle, right? So if you want to get to some big wig in your industry or celebrity or pick your person, and you know somebody who's very close to them that can speak highly about you, you instantly get credibility, right? So that's number 1. That's like what you need to be doing as just a general rule. But number 2, when you do, you need to not be what we all do. And I say all meaning it's society, not every human, but societally, where it's like, quickly, let me tell you about how cool I am and what I'm working on, what I want and what I need. That's trying to be interesting. You know, our mutual friend Dave Meltzer has it to say, be more interested than interesting. It's true, right? That's a true statement. So what I do is I always try to ask a ton of questions. I try to uncover what's meaningful and important to you and think, how can I help? Regardless of what's in it for me. And I just do that innately. That's what and how I operate. So how do I get a partnership with Gary Vaynerchuk when everyone wants to work with Gary? Because I led with value for Gary when most people are asking Gary to help them. I don't need Gary's help. I'm going to help Gary. I'm going to be different. How do I get Shaq to let me build all of his restaurants? I lead with value. How do I help you, Shaq? How do I help you, Drew Brees? How do I help you, David Mills? How do I help you, Brian? How do I help? So I have some certain specific questions I do ask when I have the opportunity, which opens the door for me to understand what it is that is important to you, right? But it's a mindset and it's a shift. I don't live in this world where I need something from my relationships. I actually don't want anything first. I want to make a deposit into that relationship account before I make a withdrawal. So if you can offer me something, I don't feel good about it if I haven't made a deposit yet. I really don't. I'm like, I feel like I'm in debt to you now. Now I have to right the ship, right? So what can I do to move something important to you forward? How can I introduce you to somebody, add some value, use some of my domain expertise, do something to make your life or your passion project or your business better? From there, I've earned the right to ask you for something.
Yeah.
And I won't even have to ask, because when you do it correctly, they just hit you up and say, hey, I want to help. I want to move this forward. Yeah. So every day I get friends all over the country showing me a picture of them at an Everbowl, posting on their social media. They're just doing that out of a genuine care. I'm not asking them to do that. Right. I don't ask Drew Brees when he's speaking at the franchise summit as the International Franchise Association franchise conference as the keynote to talk about me and Everbowl. I didn't even know he did it. I had like 50 people say, Drew's talking about you and Everbowl on stage as the keynote. That's amazing.
It is.
And so, yes, am I lucky? Yes. But that's because I built a quality relationship with Drew, because I've spent time investing in Drew, not Drew the celebrity, not Drew the athlete, Drew the person. And I can tell you the number one thing celebrities, athletes, and very successful people that have a million people wanting something from them don't get is people who are actually investing in them.
Yes.
It's true of, it's an old thing with very attractive men and women in bars.
Yeah.
You know, it's superficial. You want to have a real relationship with someone, build a conversation with them, right? Create something that says, I don't care that you're Brian and you're a successful business coach and you have a podcast. I care about you, the individual, your family, your goals, your dreams, your fears.
Yep.
What can I do to help you and be part of that sphere? Because as I tell my two daughters, there's 8 billion people on the planet. We may know a few hundred people by name, and we may have a real relationship with 20 to 50. If you can add 1 to that number, you've seriously improved your sphere of love and support.
Yeah.
And as they go in the world thinking about what I'm doing, because I've hopefully added value, they love Jeff Fenster and his family. So if they think or see something in their world when they're out there doing what they're doing that could benefit me or my kids or my wife or my family or my business, they may likely introduce me to it.
Right.
And now I'm getting Fenster luck all the time because I have 100 fishing poles in the water and you may have 5 because you're not investing in people.
But I think that's also where the true nature of the term relationship capital is developed.
Correct.
Because it comes from the deposits and the investments, not from the withdrawals.
Correct. And I mean, that was my book, right?
That's beautiful.
And that's why I wrote
I
it.
know that's why you wrote I haven't read the book, but the way you just described it.
You know, LinkedIn hired me to do a course on it. So I was forced to create this years ago and then turned it into a book. And the truth is, I'll say it again. I've had a lot of monetary success. So for the business listeners who are saying they may look at the financial success, not the rest of the world, but just that isolated element. If I had to give you one clue to duplicate or exceed my financial success, who you know? It's very easy. I mean, I started a digital marketing agency. I got to partner with Neil Patel.
Yeah.
I didn't even know him. We became partners. We made millions of dollars in digital marketing because I got the world's best digital marketer as a partner because of who I knew.
Yeah.
When I started my payroll, when I started at ADP and was the #1 sales rep in the country and made President's Club. How did I do it? David Meltzer introduced me to 100 business owners because of his relationship capital, but I earned the right because I interned with the man for 7 years, doing whatever he wanted to and never got paid. So when it finally came time for me to say, I need some help, I've earned the right to say, Dave, can you help me? He gives me 100 names. He sends 100 emails in 2006 and warm leads. I close 70 of them. I make 6 figures on President's Club. From there, I start my first payroll company and I have all these clients. So you could say, well, Jeff, that's just lucky. Well, yes, but I spent 6 years building a relationship, or 20 years with him, but the interning and demonstrating that I'm not just asking you for your relationships, right?
I don't believe in luck. I really don't.
It's just chance.
Well, but I also, I mean, to the whole point of what you've been saying, I mean, I don't know if this is probably a well-known statement, but I would tell you that my grandma is the one who I identify this with, right? She was always the one that would say, I create my own luck, right? Which is no different than everything you're talking about.
Yes, we don't. Oh, and here's where people might roll their eyes because I used to when I heard that, or when luck's when preparation meets opportunity, right? The 2 luck books. You do create your own luck. You just don't get to decide when it happens.
Well, that's the difference. Is most people view luck through the lens of timing.
Correct. I didn't win the lottery. Didn't
No.
bullshit.
But the timing is not what we can control.
Correct.
Right. And by the way, the timing is always perfect if we allow it to be.
And I don't know if you ever heard the "we'll see" little saying, but a lot of times we don't know whether or not that was lucky or not. So it's an old fable. I'll butcher up. I'll do the quick abridged version. Very poor farmer has a son. One day his son's out there and he needs his son to help him plow the field. His son falls off the horse and breaks his leg. All the villagers come and go, "I'm so sorry. Your only help, with the thing coming, your son broke his leg. He won't be able to help you." The dad says, "We'll see." Well, then a military invades and they come and try to recruit all the young kids to go to war. Because his son had a broken leg, his son doesn't go to war. You're so lucky. Your son doesn't have to go die. We'll see. And it just keeps going on this path. And there's like 18 more of those examples where it's like, yes,
But that's
in the moment, you don't know.
But that's the truth.
We don't know how it's going to work. Like, I didn't get into this school, so I got this opportunity, which opened the door to meet my wife. Right? Had I not done all those things, I don't meet my wife, which means I don't have my 2 daughters.
Right.
And I tell you, I trade every penny I have for those kids.
Right.
And my wife. So,
Of course you would.
So in that realm, was I unlucky that I didn't get into the school I wanted to get into? Or was I lucky I didn't get into this? And that's the point.
So that's, again, that's what it's like. I don't believe in coincidence. I think everything happens for some reason or cause, and that's up to and including free will, right? Like our free will can absolutely contribute to the overall factor. And then the timing is always perfect if we allow it. But those are 2 parameters that, again, break the mold of the zero-sum game, because it's, right? That's how we always compare these. So you do have a lot of success. You've got a very deep network, but I know that things haven't always been easy for you.
Correct.
So you've started, sold, and exited multiple different companies. I know, and we talked about it on our live, what happened with Everbowl when COVID hit, okay? But independent of that story, because we've already talked about it, what is a notable moment where you feel like you got rattled hard in business?
Business?
In business primarily. And I have other questions that we'll wrap on that.
Sure.
But let's start with the business side of it.
Well, I started my first company, first time ever being an entrepreneur. And 3 months later was the great financial crisis of 2008. And at the exact same moment, I had just gotten engaged. And all of a sudden, 2 knocks at the office door. We finally had an office. It was my fiance was there, my partner and me. And 2 sheriffs walk in my office. And they say, "Is Jeff Fenster here?" I'm like, "That's me." And they said, "Can we talk to you in the back?" Sure. They open up this book, and it's 2 Jeff Fenster driver's licenses. One has my picture, and one has my neighbor growing up, Ismael Soto's face. Apparently, I was the victim of identity theft. And it was very severe. So he got my social security. He went to this was pre-internet days or early internet days. So it wasn't like I was. He got my social security number. He went to the high school and got a transcript. He got a birth certificate. He applied for credit cards. He went to the DMV and put his face on my driver's license. So the catch team caught him because he had to put a fingerprint. Now they had 2 fingerprints. But if I got pulled over between that year and a half this was going on, the police would see his photo on my ID in the system. He rented apartments in Irvine. He bought a couple engagement ring for his fiance, cars, money. He went in and depleted my bank account. As a result, it plummeted my credit. And because it was the height of the financial crisis, what happens with credit is it's adjustable based on your current credit.
Right.
So now I needed credit for my business, and I had none. And I had debt that wasn't mine.
Right.
And I was working with the identity theft resource team at the same time that my business is barely. I had vendors saying, "We won't do business with you." I'm like, "What do you mean you won't do business with me? It's not mine. I have proof." "Sorry, Jeff. Like, we're not doing business with you." Like, they won't need to learn. They don't need the headache.
Wow.
So I had to over and deal with all of that. And as a result, the identity, it's not as bad as the word, but I had to file what's called an identity theft bankruptcy and go to a bankruptcy proceeding to get all of these debts removed from my entire system or my credit statement file. So now, based on the fact everyone can see it, but when the box on anything says, "Have you filed bankruptcy in the last 10 years?" I have to check yes. And then I have to explain it. And the explanation will work. But I'm dealing with all of this while trying to grow a company, while getting engaged, while trying to get married, and being a young father during the height of the financial crisis when there was no access to funds.
Right.
So that really rocked me.
And it sounds like
it was
would
tough.
have.
Yes,
that's pretty insane. So
it was tough.
Take us to that moment. And I know that you've even said this to me in the past. You're like, "Dude, I'm not like deep into my emotions. I know your 5-minute rule.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing." How did that hit you intellectually and emotionally at that time? And then how did you navigate through it?
Well, it hit me hard. Because I was like, I don't think I thought this was going to go out of business. Literally.
So what were the thoughts? What were the emotions that were bubbling up for you?
I quit the job. I didn't do the sports agents thing. I have a kid. I told my dad, when he told me when I told him I was not going to go do the law route or the sports agency route, and then I was going to do the ADP route or get a job. And then when I quit the 6-figure job and sold the house to start the business, and he told me, you don't have the privilege because you're a dad. And I told him, I look at that same set of circumstances on the opposite side. I feel like I have an obligation to show my child that I'm going to live the best, my purpose and the best version of me and chase my dreams.
Yeah.
Because I think if it's, kids don't learn what you say. They watch what you do. Mm-hmm. And so I said to my dad, I think you're seeing the other side of the coin. And now I'm going to fail at all that. I'm going to have to crazy tuck my tail and go back to settle and go get this job. And I'm like, it's all ruined. It's all gone. My fiance bet on me and agreed to it. We sold the house. Like, all of those people were dependent on me, and I was so confident. Here I am getting just knee wrecked and I felt like a victim. It's not even my fault.
Right.
I could not have stopped that from happening.
Mm-mm.
But fortunately, I have small dog syndrome from competing in sports my whole life as a little guy, and I'm used to that. So I've been seasoned. I've honed the muscle that is. I don't stay down long, and I don't let those circumstances that I can't control define me. So once I finally, and that's where the 5-minute pity roll party for me has evolved to, because I've learned I don't get anywhere spending time crying about the milk that got spilled and why it's not fair, why life threw me this, and why poor me, why. I've never gotten results from that emotion. So
you just hit on something though, that I really want to hit on, because what you just said is very profound in a very subtle way, but it's extremely powerful. Most people, when they go through the process of unpacking awareness, understanding, sitting in emotions, ask the perpetual, never-ending question of why, right? Which only makes people more aware of all the ways they should be judging themselves, which perpetuates the problem in the shame and blame cycle. You didn't say this yet, but what you've always done is you stop asking why, and you ask, what did I learn from it? What can I do about it? What can I do differently? What will I do in the next situation? You are processing the information. You're not remaining stuck in it.
Correct. If you drop me in the middle of the ocean, I am not going to tread water trying to figure out which path to go. I'm going to pick a direction and I'm going to swim, even if it's the wrong one.
Right.
And I've come to the conclusion a bad plan is better than no plan. Just is.
It is.
Because things start to happen. Mm-hmm. So what do you do now, right? What are you going to do? And you just got to do stuff. And there's a difference. And we talked about this, I think, before we actually started filming. But there's a difference between activity and strategic and productivity,
yes.
Right? Too many times we spend so much time being busy without productivity. Mm-hmm. And so I find that for whatever reason, I've never gotten results from unpacking the emotion in the moment. So the faster I can get through that, the faster I can put that away and get going, I'm going to get back to doing something that's going to benefit me.
Yeah.
And sort of refill me with positivity and momentum and upside, and all of that is just healthier and better for me.
Yeah.
And so when I'm dealing with that, yes, it sucks. Yes, it's not fair. And that's why I don't talk about it very much, because I don't need my poor me stories. I want the look what I accomplished stories. Look what we did stories. And it's not even what I overcame, because we all have those.
I agree.
And mine's not bigger or worse or better. I mean, some people have horrific circumstances. They lose their parents at a young age. They lose their spouse. They lose a child. I mean, the things I can't even fathom having to overcome. Here, I'm going to cry because someone stole my identity and almost put my business out. It didn't kill me, so good. That's what's next.
Right.
It's a battle scar. I'm improved. Guess what? I'm now seasoned. You can't get experience sitting on the bench, right? You just can't. So if you're going to, like sharks, I watch Shark Week. I'm a big Shark Week guy. If you show me 2 sharks, the one with all the scars and half of his cheek ripped out, that's a fighter.
Yeah.
You stay the hell away from that one. Mm-hmm. That one knows how to battle. That's battle tested, ready to go. The UFC fighter without cauliflower ear.
You see cauliflower ear, you're like,
they're not the one I'm betting on. I'm putting my money on cauliflower ears.
Yeah.
Because they're seasoned. Mm-hmm. Same thing in business. If you don't have those stories, and the ones I find, the people that spend too much time in them, and I hear about them and they want to talk about them all the time, they want to talk about them because they're not yet past it.
Right.
They haven't yet closed that door. And so that's why I talk about my 5-minute pity party, because I think you need to have time. Maybe 5 minutes is not enough for you. Maybe it's a week, a month. Just don't make it years.
Right.
Shrink that down.
Well, I mean, again, one of the things that I say and Meltzer says, I may have learned it from him and stolen it from him, I don't know, but it's like, look, dude, I was in that low frequency energy emotions for months and years at times. Now it's minutes and moments, right? Like it is a profound difference in terms of our capacity, our focus, our resiliency, our groundedness. And again, I think that's what I think is interesting is like, you almost bucket into this 5-minute thing. You're like, yeah, I don't, but you're very highly productive with your 5 minutes in terms of processing.
Yes.
Now, the question then becomes, where have some of the negative emotions or things in your life impacted any of your personal or otherwise relationships?
You mean outside of the 5 minutes? Or like, did they show themselves again?
Did they show up outside of business?
Of course. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the need to be the best version of me is not always great for relationships.
Right.
There's a sacrifice. I mean, the closest I've ever come to getting divorced was actually Everbowl.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I started this restaurant. I know nothing about restaurants. And when I start something, I'm all in. I'm either all in or I'm not doing. So the first 4 months was
Otherwise, what's the point? Like, honestly.
Yeah, I can mediocrely do nothing. Watch me. Yeah. The first 4 months that I opened this restaurant, I knew nothing about restaurants.
Yeah.
I opened the doors at 7 in the morning and I closed the doors at 9 at night, 7 days a week.
Mm.
And my wife wasn't prepared for that because she literally said to me, and this was one of the closest, she said in the most maddest she's ever been to me, you're a millionaire working a minimum wage job, taking time away from your family and friends for what? You don't need it. You don't need it. Because I'm making no money moving, selling off idols. Right? But it wasn't a matter of, I don't chase dollars. I don't chase this. I don't chase that. I put 100%, I'd be remarkable at what I'm doing. The results come. Fast forward, I'm building something cool.
Yeah.
And the professional side of me has to be fulfilled just like the personal side of me. And there are seasons, right? In life. We all know about it. And this was the season where I had to go spend building, like rebuilding or building another company. And truthfully, I was semi-retired before then. She kind of said, go do something because she needed me to go be productive, right? Because I couldn't sit idle. It's just, there's only two. I have on
energy like yours and mine idle is going to cause problems. Like
on or off. There's two speeds.
Yeah.
I'm off or I'm on. And when I'm off, I'm off. Like when we go on vacation, I'm all in with them.
Good.
And that's the thing. It's like, I treat everything that way. Business is the one I talk about because my personal life is mine.
I get it.
I don't need to share my personal life as much publicly. I don't want that. My wife doesn't want that. My kids probably don't want that, you know?
Yep.
So like that's the beauty of my family. It's mine. Like that's
I think it's beautiful. I'm even happy that you said, look, the closest I got to a divorce was in this situation. And here's the exact statement that my wife told me.
Yes.
Right? That's profound. I am curious for the beginning part of Everbowl, that schedule, 7 to 9. How long did that exist and what year frame was that?
4 months, 2016, October till just about February 2017.
So your girls were 11 and 5.
Yes.
But it was 4 months, not 4 years.
Correct. Also. And that's the thing. Because I did that for 4 months, it wasn't 4 years.
Right.
That's the other side.
That's the right. That's the whole point you're making in everything we do.
Yes.
Because I genuinely believe when we open up our capacity and we can isolate our focus and channel everything down a path and give it our all, that's when we can bend and manipulate time. And people are like, how the fuck did you do that in 4 months? How'd you do that in 2 years? How'd you do that? I put everything into it.
Yeah. It's the law school thing again. It's when I do it, I'm going to win.
Yep.
And when I say win,
not against other people, it's winning against.
I'm going to leave it all on the field. And that's it.
Yeah.
And when I do that, most times the results are good. And it's not because I'm better than everyone. I'm an ordinary guy. It's because that's the extra that most people won't do. And that's the secret to winning.
I also do appreciate, though, that you fully are able to sit and own when I'm fully on, I'm fully on, when I'm fully off, I'm fully off. That's something that I would argue that in our entrepreneur culture today, being off is viewed as a bad thing for many people. Yeah. And I really genuinely believe that everybody operates at a different cadence. First of all, like some people need more off time than others. We've got introverts, extroverts. There's a variety of examples. I don't ever believe in absolutes, like just in general. However, I do believe that there needs to be off time, rest, recovery, integration, growth time.
outside of practice and application. So I love that you're able to sit there and talk about that. Were you always able to do that?
Well, yeah, because I'm not actually off. I'm just on something else.
Well, right. Okay. Yes.
That's all it is.
Because that's all it is for me too, as well. Because here's the thing. That's how I think you can get a great life.
Right.
When I say off, I leave my phone right there on my desk at 5 p.m. when I'm in town, and I go inside and my phone stays there until the kids are in bed.
But you're on with your kids.
100%, because it's to everything we've talked about. The only thing I can influence is what's right now.
Yes.
There's time for planning, time for preparation, but like my kids want my presence.
But it's a matter of necessity, right? If I was 23 as a young dad trying to make my business work, my phone's not sitting on the table and my kid's not getting my time.
Right.
Because I don't have
and again,
necessity is money.
Which is why I'm saying it's not absolute.
Yes.
It's in seasons, and it's recognizing when at some point it can create damage or ripple effects in other areas of your life that are important to you.
Correct.
Because the only way I don't believe in balance, because it sets you up for failure. It implies equal parts of everything.
And you just said the key word, what's important to you.
Bingo. Each person.
Yeah. So if only thing that's important to you is your business, then if that's all that was important to me, then I wouldn't be off.
Right. And again, I'm not saying it is a good or a bad thing. What I'm saying is I appreciate that even in the nature of a lot of the entrepreneurial hustle culture that exists in the world today, you're able to sit here and say, look, no, like this is what I am. And, oh, by the way, that doesn't mean that I'm off. It means I'm off to these people. I'm off to my business. I'm off to, because I am all on here.
Yes.
And I think that the people who have the ability to center into what's right in front of them and be highly present are the ones that unlock what's available to every one of us. How did you learn how to do that?
It's a good question. I just follow success principles again and again. So if things don't work for me well, I shift and keep trying until I find a formula that works. And then I'm not going to be artistic about it. I'm going to be specific. If 1 + 1 is 2, how many times can I do that? Again and again and again and again. It works. Like I don't need to see if there's another way, if that way is giving me the results I want. Right. So when I think the entrepreneurial culture we're in, most businesses fail flat out. They do. 9 out of 10 businesses don't make it past a year. 9 out of 10 that do make it past a year don't make it past 5. The amount of entrepreneurs that are going to make $1 million is like 2%.
Right.
The amount of entrepreneurs that will ever sell companies, like 4%. The numbers are staggeringly terrible.
Yep.
So the culture of never be off, you have to do it. It's because they're not winning.
Right.
And they're not winning because they're the wrong formula. And that's why I say most people shouldn't be an entrepreneur. It's not because we've glorified a profession that it's like glorifying a teacher. Right. I'm not meant to be a teacher. I don't have the patience, the empathy, the view, the mind for it. I won't bring the children the way they need to be proud. I'm not meant to be a firefighter. I don't want to go in burning buildings. I don't want to do those things. I'm not meant to be a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm not meant to be an air pilot.
Yeah.
All those professions have their benefits, and if we glorify them, we'd be talking about them. But because of the success of the elite few in this field, and it's uber success, right? At the highest level of financial gain, right? Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and all of these people you see, and now the influencers on social media that either have it or don't, but they appear to.
Yeah.
You think, oh my God, I want that. Well, guess what? Do you? Yeah. Because if you listen to Kobe Bryant talk about how he, before he passed away, how he became what he was, he tells the stories, and every one of his peers say the same. He worked out at 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. and his family never saw him. And when everyone else went to the club, he was working.
Yep.
So he sacrificed to get that success that you're seeing and saying, I want that.
Yep.
But you're not going to do what he did to get it.
Right.
So if you're not going to do if you don't have the right formula, you're not going to be able to trade just sheer hours and get the success.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Couldn't agree with you more. What I love though is, again, the nuance and the beauty of it is you just said, look, hustle culture comes from those that aren't winning.
Yes.
Right. Because the only way to not be off is if you're not able to win in some of the categories, right? Especially for those of us that are going to give everything. We hate failing more than we like winning, right?
Yes.
It's like, I cannot let this thing go and be crushed. And so I'm going to give everything. But once we're on the winning side of the equation, it shifts.
That's right. And I'll add, there is times where you have to hustle your ass off.
1,000%.
My 4 months at Everbowl, as an example, my first 2.5 years at iChecks, my very first company, law school time. There is that time.
But that's where integration comes from, because it's not saying I'm so disciplined that my 50 and 60 hours a week looks exactly like this. It's, oh shit, I can crush it for 3 days, be highly productive, move around somewhere else, and then I open up this time to go focus on something else or someone else, right?
And it also depends what you're doing and who you are.
1000%.
Right? Because like I said, if you are Mark Zuckerberg and you're coding the next Facebook, yeah, you better spend those hours coding. Like you have to do that. But at the same breath, what is your job?
Right.
What is this build? What is this company you're building?
Right.
Because at the end of the day,
Right.
success leaves clues.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're spending no time finding them, then you're just busy.
Yeah. And I also appreciate even what you just said, because I often try to challenge the perspective of people who look at Kobe's in the world, right? I mean, one that's in our circle, we've talked about on it today, right? Like, I love and adore David Meltzer. There are elements of David Meltzer's life that I want more in my own life, right? And there are things from him that I'm continuing to learn. But I can also tell you definitively, I don't want his travel schedule right now.
There's lots of his life I don't want. I won't do.
That, like, there are like many, so I agree with that. But even that alone, it's like there's so many elements of, like, he's constantly on a plane. He lives on a plane, right? Miles, I know he's really intentional with him when he's there. And I know how he prioritizes his life. I know what he does with his minutes and his time. He's got his time allocation that and for him that works, right? That's not the life I want. And so that doesn't, I can't effectively compare myself to him. To your point, I have to identify the success clues and the little pieces within him that I can apply and insert into my own life and business in a way that will align for me.
Yes, and I think I agree with you because, you know, I love Dave. He's a big brother to me. I've known him my whole life, and he's a mentor. He's been a coach. We're family, literally.
And he operates at a level that most people will never be able to. Like,
his brother worked for me. I mean, literally, his brother was my COO for years. What he has demonstrated in his world is that works for him, but the clues that come from him, I don't want his life. I travel a ton now, speaking and doing stuff, but nowhere near like what he does.
well, that's what I mean. It's not like I don't travel.
No,
I'm not
nowhere
his
near what
schedule.
he does.
Yeah.
Not even close.
And he's flying across the globe like every other week.
And I
I'm
would
like,
want to.
I'm like, I don't want to be on.
And I also don't want my calendar that rigid. Honestly, that's not how I operate at my best.
Either.
But what are the success clues that you can unwrap? Because that's the formula.
That's it.
His preparation is there. His curiosity is there. His relationship capital is there. His aim for Kaizen is there. His remarkability factor, where he puts his best into what he's doing, is there.
His care is there.
And keep going.
I mean,
success
it's
equals
huge.
success.
Right.
So if you take those same principles and apply it in your own way to what you're doing, without having to do his travel and his and his and his and his and his, and make it about you and you, but apply those same principles, guess what?
Yeah.
Your success follows.
Bingo.
That's why success is.
And again, you said your success follows.
Correct.
Again, key indicator. That's one of the areas that's very obvious how aligned you and I are. I think it's all about the individual and not about becoming a mold or a model of someone else.
Well, like my wife doesn't give one shit about business. Zero.
Yeah.
Like none. Like any successful business thing I have she's obviously loves me. She's stoked about it.
But it's not what lights her up. She's excited for you.
She's excited, but what lights her up is in her success is being the best mom she can be. That's her business in her mind. Mm-hmm. So couldn't be more polar opposite, right? Like making the party for my daughter's birthday the way she has to have it, where it's like, I think she's fanatical about it, and she thinks I'm fanatical about what I'm doing. Right. But success for her is different than for me. Right. And it's great. Right? It's totally great. And that's why I think we need to get out of this comparison mindset.
I agree.
And the sooner you do that and start to realize, like, what can I learn from Alex Ramosi? What can I learn from Dan Fleischman? What can I learn from Drew Brees? What can I learn from pick your person that you think is successful in whatever field, right? You want to be a teacher? What can you learn from the best professors and teachers in the world, right? Are they curious? Are they always learning? Mm-hmm. Are they specific and dogmatic in their ways? Are they not change ready? Are they not adapting? Are they so focused on this is the only way? Like, they're not going to be the successful ones. Successful people follow the same attributes. My show, the Jeff Fenster Show, that's all we do on my show is bring on successful people and talk about what makes them successful again and again and again, because very few truly successful people are one-hit wonders. Do I think it's strange that Elon Musk can run 5 companies? No, I don't. I think he could run 20. Mm-hmm. I don't find it strange that I've had successful companies. I don't find it strange that you have. I don't find it strange because what we're doing doesn't matter. The formula we're applying is the same again and again and again. So if I apply the same formula that got me success the last 3 times, why won't it this time?
Right.
It will. It just will. And the bad habits are also the same. If in your life you failed again and again and again, there's something you're doing repetitively that is creating the failure in your mind.
Correct.
Again, depending what you're after, that is not getting you the results you want. So you have to identify what is that broken part of the formula and remove it and replace it with one that's going to yield the positive results.
I always say, if your outcomes don't align with your intent, change your actions. If the answers don't align with your desire, change your questions.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the 2 things that really have to exist continually. And again, a variety of other success factors that go into it. You know, you wrote one thing on your intake form that surprised me. It's probably based on my definition, but I'm just really curious. You said that you're actually a hypochondriac.
I am.
What does that mean to you? And because hypochondriac to me, I have a definition for it. I can look something up. Right. So is that how you define it?
Yes, I'm afraid of illness.
Okay.
And I'm afraid of illness because when I was a young kid, one of my favorite aunts died of cancer, and my dad's a doctor. Yeah. And when she has cancer and she's dying, I said, Dad, why is she dying? You know, I'm 9 years old, 8 years old. Like, you don't have the, And he said, you know, they didn't find it early. Yeah, they find it earlier, they might have had a better chance. Like, well, why can't you find it early? Well, cancer's, you know, it's hard to treat, it's hard to cure. And then growing up, we've all had friends that unfortunately have passed away and family members, and you come to realize it's easier to prevent illness than cure it. And so I'm afraid of illness. And so I've built a life about health and wellness. Everbold's part of that, about, I think, lifestyle. And you start to do the research and you realize 80% of heart disease, stroke, obesity, cancer, diabetes, hypertension is preventable or delayable with lifestyle choice, which means we know what we need to be doing. But you look at the average American, we eat fast food 3.2 times a week. We're obese, we're overweight, we're out of shape, we're killing ourselves. And, you know, one of my biggest, most viral pieces of content I've ever produced was me saying something. And I got a lot of good comments, but I also got a lot of bad comments. I'm surprised. I don't think success is singular. I think successful people are successful at everything they do, which means, are you healthy? If you're a billionaire, but you're obese, I'm sorry, you're not successful. You're rich. That's just one element. So when I said I want to have a Hall of Fame life, it doesn't mean I want to make billions of dollars. It means I want to make billions of dollars. I want to live healthy, long, good quality years. I want to be the best father I can be. I want to be the best husband I can be. I want to be the most in shape I can be. I want to be and fulfill my brain's app. Like, I want it all. Does that make me selfish? Probably. I want it all.
By the way, I think being selfish is the least selfish thing you can do.
Yeah, I want it all. And when you want it all, I don't want to get cancer.
Yeah.
I don't want to get heart disease. I don't want to have a stroke. I don't want to do that, because look at Steve Jobs. Yeah. Imagine if the world had 10 more years of his mind. Right?
Yeah. I mean, Apple, though they continue to grow, like, largely their innovation halted when he went away. I mean, what have they done? Just released more updated versions of what products he developed? Right. Like, genuinely.
Yeah, like, genuinely. Like, the world lost.
Yeah, we did.
An incredible mind.
Yeah, we did.
And there was nothing he could have done to prevent that.
Mm-mm.
So knowing that, I was like, okay, how do we at least
prevent as much as we can? How
do I at least get those out of the equation? Yeah. Like, I can only control what I can control. So how can I be remarkable in my health and wellness?
Success. Yeah.
So hypochondria, I'm a hypochondriac. That's what I'm most afraid of. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure I work out every day, 7 days a week. I do not take days off. I'm actually doing a challenge with a buddy of mine who's the CEO of EOS Fitness, and we each have a tracker where we see it. It's a bet. Today I'm on day 180, I think, or 181. Straight days, minimum of a certain amount of cardio at my heart rate at a certain level.
I love it.
No days off. Regardless of travel schedules, illness, family, I'll wake up at 3:15 in the morning if I have to get it in. Because when the other part of my success formula that has worked for me, and I truly believe the day people can get to this point, they will see an abundance of success. When you remove the want to from getting things done, I don't have to want to or feel like it to do stuff. I don't have to feel like working out to work out. I don't have to feel like making the phone calls to make the phone calls. I don't have to want to send an email to your life. I'm going to brush my teeth today. I'm going to work out today. I'm going to kiss my kids.
Yep.
I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to do the best I can in business. I'm going to do those things, even if I don't feel like it
Right.
or want to. That's just not a requirement for me.
Right.
When I want to, it's great.
Right.
Hey, I want to do all this. It's wonderful. I love it. But I was saying, when I want to do it, great, I do it. When I don't want to, I have to. That's it.
But it's also, I mean, again, noticing success patterns is also the things, the routines, and the disciplines that you know are additive to your life, even if they seem like their effort, right? I mean, that's the whole concept of embrace pain to avoid suffering, right? You can embrace the pain of hitting the gym for 30 minutes every single day to avoid the suffering of aches and pains of sedentary lifestyle,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Most people only look at hopes, dreams, and desires. What I love about being a hypochondriac and being afraid of disease is that's the definition of suffering for you.
Yes.
So because you've acknowledged the suffering that you wish to avoid, you've identified the pains that you're going to embrace for the remainder of your life, and you've established as a habit of success in everything you do.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't view habits through the lens of taxes or cost. You view it through the lens of investment, just like you do with relationships.
That's right.
And I agree with you completely. When you can get there, the whole world changes.
Well, that's what stops everybody. That's what stops absolutely everybody from anything. I don't feel like it today. I don't want to. I don't have the desire. I don't have the motivation. So we watch motivational videos. We read motivational books. We're trying to find this external thing that's going to create the want to and desire. What if you train your body to not need that? Instead of trying to find that, because we all go through periods we don't want it. No, you don't even need it. Remove it.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I don't need want or feel like.
Oh, I thought you were saying motivation.
No, I'm saying I don't need motivation. I don't need to be motivated because when I have to do something, I have to do it. I have to brush my teeth every morning. I don't leave the house.
Yeah,
how many days do I want to brush my teeth?
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to brush my teeth. Never feel that way.
Twice a day, every day.
Yeah. Sometimes I'm in a hurry. Shit, I got to brush
It's
my
4
teeth.
minutes every day. Can I get that time back?
Right. It's just it's
Right.
what we have to do as societal members, right? You put clothes on every day. People don't walk around the streets naked. You take the time to put on clothes. Do you feel like it? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't even enter my brain. It's just part of my DNA.
Yeah.
Part of my.
I appreciate how absolutely just like fixed, rigid, and set it is with the I have to language.
Yes.
You know, I think for me, I wouldn't tell you that I'm to that degree where it's like it's just I have to.
Sure.
There's ebbs and flows, but I also believe that like there are days that I know that I wake up with less energy, a little bit more fatigued. Am I less inclined to want to do those same things?
Yeah.
Of course I am. What will they do for me though? Right. What will they open up for me? And oh, by the way, by the time I get myself going, get my quiet time in the morning, get my movement, get the elements of doing it, by the time all those core fundamental disciplines are done in the morning, I'm not feeling the same way I was when I woke up. I'm feeling energized, ready to go, clarified for the day.
And your North Star is different than mine.
Correct. And
You're not
again,
hypochondriac.
that's what I'm saying. I don't in any way criticize it. I love what and how you framed it for the purposes of you.
And I think you
It's
can
powerful.
apply it for whatever you're trying
course
to
you
do.
can.
Right? And
100%.
that's what people, in my opinion,
100%.
is stopping so much abundance and success.
I agree.
And it pains me because my bigger mission in life is to help everyone achieve success, not because I have this idea that I need to be the next Tony Robbins. It's not. I genuinely feel like the world's robbed of so much brilliance that I'm going to capitalize and benefit from, and so are my kids. Because if you're not feeling good, you're not performing good. If you don't make enough money and you're doing a dead-end job, but you actually could create a product or service or technology that would change the world, but you don't because you don't. You don't?
Yep.
We're all wrong. What if you could cure a disease that my kid might one day get?
Bingo.
Please do that.
Yes.
Right? Please do that. And to do that, you may need more financial resources. You may need a loving family around you to make you feel motivated and happy and inspired. You may need to be in shape, right? You may need all these things. So why not strive? Why not strive to be remarkable at everything you do?
Yeah.
And if you're not going to be remarkable about it, don't do it.
Do it.
I don't sing and I don't dance. I'm like not a good nightclub guy. My wife gets, I'm not a dancer. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. I don't do it.
Yeah.
Zero. I don't dance.
Yeah.
Does that make, I'm not remarkable. I don't enjoy it.
And that doesn't even matter. Right.
But if I was a dancer,
It would matter.
I would dance.
Right. And so I love all of the definitive nature of how you communicate that because it's very congruent with the way I view the world and believe it.
And I think it's simple. I know it's absolute, but it's simple. Instead of me saying high, big words and big altruistic ideas that don't give you an action plan, if you're listening to this and you're like, how do I actually apply what this guy just said? This is the stuff I'm talking about. Like, I'm an ordinary guy. I'm telling you the extra things. It's simple because it's doable.
It is
And
for
it's
everybody.
immediate.
It's accessible. It's right in front of us.
And we can all do it.
I agree.
Doesn't matter where nothing talks about your height, your brain power, your resources, your capabilities. As you mentioned, you have an arm story.
Dude, I dealt with daily physical pain for nearly 31 years.
Yes.
I could choose to surrender to the pain and be in bed or sit and be idle.
That's right.
Or I can figure out what can I do to mitigate and reduce that pain and improve my quality of life as much as possible.
That's right.
That's like, to me, there is no other option.
That's right.
Right. And to your point, like I even in the moments when I've struggled as an adult, like my kids are watching. Like my kids are going to watch what I do, and I can give myself empathy and grace, but that also doesn't mean that I'm going to surrender to the outside forces that might feel yucky for now.
That's right. I was
figuring out how to
born,
do it.
and I had to go to speech classes. I couldn't say the letter R.
Yeah.
I speak on stages now in front of thousands of people.
My daughter's hearing impaired and has dyslexia, right? And it's like she's been in speech therapy since she was 4. My son's on the autism spectrum. Guess what? The two, those are labels, not for the sense of labeling because it is what it is. It's about understanding who they are and then how to use that within their world to maximize their opportunity. And that's the biggest thing for me. I struggle with is like unlived potential.
Me too. That's my second biggest fear, is that I'm laying on my deathbed, and same thing I said with law school. I wish I would have. I don't want any of those.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah.
Regret is the biggest expense.
It is.
I will not have it. I'd rather suffer through pain, headache, turmoil, uncomfort, discomfort, that choose your hard thing. I choose that one because I assure you, when Steve Jobs was on his deathbed, he would have given it all up for one more minute.
Oh, I guarantee.
One more day.
Well, I mean, did you ever see that commencement speech he gave, like when he was dealing with pancreatic cancer? God, I'll have to find the link and send it to you. Like he genuinely gave and dropped pure, complete wisdom, which was really around that. It's like, as he's wrestling with his own relationship with mortality, that's ultimately the message that I felt. Whether or not those were the words he said, that's what I felt when I watched that commencement speech. And so you're spot on. I know we're wrapping up quick on time here. Yeah. And so you've talked about the Jeff Fenster show. We know about your book. We're going to have that stuff in our show notes. And so instead of just saying, how can people find you? Because we're going to have it all in there. I think it's pretty consistent with everything you've talked about today, but can you give us just some closing thoughts, right? If you want to create success for every single person, outside of the things you've already said today, which you're very congruent, very consistent, what would be a closing thought to leave everyone with?
Well, I'm gonna steal a phrase from the Mathis twins who were on my show, because they said something in a way, and it's their words, so I want to give them all the credit for it. But I never get it out of my head anymore. They have this saying, exposure leads to expansion. And you don't know what you don't know till you don't know it. And so if you're sitting there trying to get success, you need to be exposed to more. It goes back to why my mom made me intern, and look at what that created for me. Yeah. And I was exposed to the ideas and lessons and learnings from all of these other people. So start exposing yourself. Start looking at what you're consuming. Start looking at what you're doing and how you're doing it. And if you don't have the results you want, to your point, change the model.
Yep.
But success leaves clues.
Yep.
Don't look at what Dave Meltzer or Brian or Jeff do. Look at how we do it.
Yep.
Because the how is where the magic is. There's no coincidence that Kobe Bryant was a Hall of Fame basketball player, but then won an Emmy when he got into the business world. It's no coincidence. It's no coincidence that Dave Meltzer can have a successful sports agent career, lose $100 million, and build an incredible coaching career and speak out for. It's not a coincidence. He's doing the certain things that will create success. My number one piece of advice is remove the when. I always say success is guaranteed. It's just it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah. So if you follow the formula, I can't tell you it's going to happen tomorrow or 5 years from today. I can just guarantee you it will happen. Yeah. You will get in shape if you work out every day. It might take you 10 years. It might take me 1 year. That's just life. Yeah. But you will be healthier. You will get in shape.
Yep.
You will make money if you're in the business world, if you learn what attributes they are and you surround yourself with the right people. All of it is obtainable. Yeah. If an ordinary guy like me can do it, and I can figure out that extra stuff, everyone watching can do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that you found a way to be extraordinary, my friend, and thank you for being here with us today. The simplicity and how accessible your lessons and words are is part of the reason you're going to ensure that you impact as many people as you already are and will continue to.
Well, thank you
for being here.
Thank you for having me, man. This was fun.
It definitely was. And for those of you that just tuned in, holy shit, right? it comes down to it. Success leaves clues. Relationships and who you know is really what's going to matter. But how are you getting clear on who you are? What's important to you? What's going to serve you in the ultimate path of what you define success as? Jeff just showed us all these ways to study other people and then apply it into his own life. And guess what? Exposure expands. The reality of it is every single one of you has the same opportunity to lean into and build the lives that you desire at any moment. It's going to require you to flip open your lid and scan your can.
What you can probably tell by now is that I love telling these stories, but what I love even more is the impact that's coming from them. You see, we're on a mission to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as possible, but to do that, we need you. See, we believe that moved people move people. And so all I'm asking is if you've resonated, connected with any of the messaging, please consider commenting, sharing, leave a rating and review. Thank you so much for tuning into Flipping the Lid. And if you want more information on the show, how to become a guest, how to recommend a guest, or any of the other details, head over to flippingthelid.com. We'll see you there.